We're gonna give you guys just a few seconds to catch up because probably most of you weren't aware. And if no one watches this live, that is totally fine as well. But I have the day off and I wanted to share with you guys. I get a lot of questions on my channel about paint correction, about polishing pads, understanding the types of paints that we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis when it comes to paint correction. And I am by no means going to say that I am the most proficient when it comes to this area. There are many people that are extremely more skilled than me. So I'm just going to preface that first and foremost. And I want to see, let's see if we can see all of our comments. All right. All right, so as we get comments, hopefully we're going to be able to see them. And if you guys can hear me okay, and you guys can see me okay, let me know. This was very impromptu. In fact, I'm going to see if I can watch this live. I just want to see what my settings are looking like. Okay, let's see what's coming up. I'm actually watching myself online right now. Okay. Well, to the 10 of you who are watching, if you guys have any questions, put your questions in the comment section down below. This is not going to be by any means exhaustive, but my goal is to, one, answer your questions, and two, just kind of give you a general understanding of pads, the different pads that are out there, how to determine which pad you should use, how to figure out your test spot, when you would use what in what situation. And again, like I said, this isn't meant to be exhaustive. But what I am going to do, I'm going to put you guys up here and I'm going to flip this around. So that way you don't see things backwards, because that was the one thing that you guys actually said. If I can actually do this. Nope. Let's see, switch. All right. I'm going to put you guys in here. So again, if we ever have audio issues or signal issues, let me know. But I'm just going to grab, I have my test hood here, and let me see. All right, so if you guys, like I said, questions, put them in the comment section. All right, and I will try to get to them. Audio and video is good from Maria. What pad do you use on glass for water spots? We will get to that a little bit later. All right, so quick understanding of pads, okay? Every manufacturer's pads are gonna be slightly different. The ones that I predominantly use are Lake Country. Another popular brand is Chemical Guys. Rupes is another one that I absolutely love. A lot of different manufacturers make pads, but some will actually kind of white label for other companies. So predominantly Lake Country, Buff and Shine, they're going to be two of your more popular ones. I know Chemical Guys is one of the more popular ones as well for beginners. I've never really worked with them, so forgive me, we're not going to mention them. If you have worked with them in the past, that's fantastic. But for the purpose of this video, I would kind of equate Chemical Guys as more of a beginner-friendly pad. But again, I've never worked with them. I think they have their hex patterns within them, but I was never a huge fan of them. So anyways, when it comes to paint correction, okay, if we're going to kind of visualize things, you want to kind of visualize it in kind of this color diagram. And like I said, again, every manufacturer's colors are going to be slightly different. So go by their colors, not by necessarily what this video is saying. But typically for the ones that I'm working with, when we have kind of our finishing to medium polish to more heavier correction to heavy correction, this is kind of the gamut that we're going to fall under when it comes to foam. Now, this doesn't necessarily take into consideration microfiber or wool, which are going to be more of your heavy cut. We'll get to that in just a second. But for most beginners, this is kind of the area that you're going to want to focus on, start on. When you get into heavy correction, when you get into extremely hard paints, you have your microfiber and wool pads are going to be the most effective. However, that is where you can do the most amount of potential damage. I'm not going to say every time, and especially if you're working on hard paints, these aren't going to make, I would say, these aren't going to make a hard dent, okay? Your soft, medium paints, these are going to do great for light correction. Your hard paints, I would say these colors here are going to be the ones that you're going to want to use. So your soft medium paints, these are probably going to be your finishing polishes, sometimes even your paint enhancements. A white polishing pad can actually do decent correction with a medium polish on soft sensitive paint. These are more for finishing, or when we have sensitive paints, finicky, that aren't wanting to finish down, or maybe we're putting a finishing wax on and you want something that's not going to cut, that's not going to really abrade the paint, but just give you a little bit of a faster turnaround, maybe enhance gloss ever so slightly. That's where these pads, they can be used for jeweling. They can just be used for removing micro marring or haze, or applying kind of a paste or finishing wax. Then we've got kind of our, I would say, light polish pads. We've got our white finishing, we've got our orange kind of polish pad. And you'll see mine are pretty badly stained, but this is normally from like polishes that have a dye within them. That's why they look that way. They're actually clean. But these are great for Teslas, Subarus, sensitive paints, even Chevy paints. Sometimes even though on super sensitive paints, this pad can be too aggressive. So you might even need something like this. It really is all going to be determined by your test spot. But even our orange film pads, this is actually one of my favorite type of pads to use. Orange polishing pads, these are great for paint enhancements, for gloss enhancements. We have a lot of different terms, detailers, and it can be confusing, but paint enhancement, gloss enhancement, one-step correction, you could put them all in the kind of the same category. But the way that I determine it, and I know I'm all over the place, hang with me. And again, if you guys have any questions about what I'm saying, put them in the comment section. But when I have a customer and I give them a paint enhancement, for me, I am doing 2, maximum 3 passes with a pad, normally either an all-in-one or a light polish or something of that sort that's more so going to remove marring, maybe remove some of the swirls and scratches, restore gloss and shine, but above anything, finish with clarity. And for that, normally when I'm doing a paint enhancement, this is kind of the range that I'm going to use. Your softer paints, this is where I would land for most vehicles. This is appropriate. Harder paints or maybe a little bit of heavier swirls, you could use something like this, okay? When we get into heavier correction, that's where I would say we're going to be breaking out these pads, and you could even throw in there a gray polishing pad. I don't have any of those anymore because normally if I'm going that heavy with correction, I'm breaking out a microfiber or wool pad. But typically here at my shop, working on daily drivers, I am using these pads. I very rarely am using a pad like this, maybe special circumstances, or we're using a primer polish or a finishing polish. And again, rarely am I using a heavy correcting foam pad like this. These two are my bread and butter right here at my shop. And we'll get into kind of the different types of pads in a second, because you can see there's so many different types. Why would you use one over another? But when it comes to paint enhancements, gloss enhancements, typically this is where you're going to want to start based on the level of correction and the type of paint. Now, your test spot is going to determine the type of paint. You can also use resources like Google, chat forums online to kind of give you a baseline. But that doesn't mean that the answer that you get online is going to be the exact match for what you need in that moment. I've had some vehicles, I did a video recently, VW paint, typically German paints, very hard. Your Mercedes-Benz, your Audis, your VW paints, even some Hyundai paints, they can be very, very hard. So that means you would need to use a more aggressive pad to even make a dent when it comes to correction. But even when I used these type of pads on that hard paint, or it should have been hard, it was marring. So then I had to kind of step everything down. So let me just real quick, we're going to pop in on the questions because I see you guys in the chat already asking questions. So hopefully I'm not too squirrely for you guys. Let's see, what steamer extractor are you currently using? Otis, the Aqua Pro Vac steamer and extractor, but we're going to focus on interior tools in a later video. Hi, Dan's Diamond Detailing. Do you keep your pads in plastic airtight containers to prevent them from O2? No, Dan, I do not. You'll actually, I don't know if you guys can see back here, I keep them in drawers like this. For the most part, it keeps dust and debris off of them. I don't know if you guys can see, probably cannot. Give me a second. I'm gonna pull one of these out. These are actually like race deck floor tiles, but when I wash my pads, sometimes, and I'm gonna put it on the hood. I know you guys, this has been scratched up, don't worry. I will wash them and I will kind of lay them like this, and then I will just stack them and let them dry. That's why sometimes you might see some of my pads, they look like a Louis Vuitton symbol on them. No, it's just a little bit of indentation from this. But that's kind of how I air dry them. I just kind of stack them neatly like this off to the side. Normally after a day, they air dry. But when it comes to storage, I normally just keep them here, or I have a metal shelf that I kind of keep them on out of the way. But I do try to keep them from being exposed to dirt and things like that. But obviously brush them out, clean them before you use them. But that is how I store my pads. Let's see. Mariah says, I remember a video you made a while ago where you showed your different pads and how to use them. I love this update. That's great. Let's see. I scrolled too far. We've got our Medina in the house, Flint Star in the house. What pad and polish would you recommend for piano black pillars from Medina? We're going to kind of skip right to that. I know that's a very popular question that a lot of people ask. So for those that don't want to kind of beat around, typically I have found for sensitive finishes, Optimum Hyper Polish is my go-to. If you've watched any of my videos, you know I love this for Chevy black paint. Any sensitive finishes, whenever I do a heavy correction and I'm micromarring, or just, piano trim pieces, Optimum Hyper Polish and a white foam pad typically will finish down well. Now you can use whatever you need for the correction step. Just keep in mind on sensitive finishes like piano trim, if you go heavy with correction, let's say they're gnarly, they've got a lot of damage on them, you could use microfiber. You're going to probably have to two-step it down just to remove the damage from your microfiber pad. So I normally will land here to give me decent correction on piano trim, and you can use the same polish. Your polish doesn't always mean it's not going to have abrasives within it, because when you pair it with the right pad, you can get a touch more correction because the pad is actually going to give you some correction, but also your pad softness, density is going to help keep your polish more on the surface. When you have a more porous pad like this, some of your polish is going to get more absorbed into the surface. Now, again, we'll get into this in just a second. You can see we have different surfaces where they're designed to maybe keep more of your polish on the surface, or maybe designed to keep the surface of the panel cooler, or maybe designed to give you more of a bevel edge, so that way there's less risk of scratching the paint with a backing plate or your pad. Or you could even have ones that are lower density for heavier correction, but again, you might have more heat. Or you could have something that has actually a firmer backing plate under there. So that way, if you're using maybe a larger throw orbital, there's going to be less friction, also less heat generation, and also it's going to help your pad from kind of not getting slung around as much, so heavier correction. So that's why some of these pads all look ever so slightly different. But circling back, for piano trim pieces, typically you want to finish with something that is going to be soft, and some you might even need to use a black foam pad. And if you even find that your polish is not finishing down properly enough there, sometimes you might need to just use a black pad with some water. Mineral deposits can even be a little bit of an abrasive, but typically just the black pad. But I would start here with this combination, Optimum Hyper Polish and a white foam pad. So hopefully that answers your question for you guys. All right, is the audio a little choppy? Hopefully not. I'm going to try to move you guys. Maybe it's just bouncing around because I'm bouncing around. We have to use 3D products at my work. Michiganja Mook. 3D products actually are pretty great. They've come a long way with technology, but I would say that there's probably other brands out there that are a little bit more advanced. But I know in body shop environments, there's going to be specific products that you're limited to. So that can be a frustration for some people. Some manufacturers will let you bring in your own products. Those are few and far between though. But 3D actually has some pretty great products, but they can be prone to dusting, not necessarily have as long of a work time. So there's just workarounds that you're gonna have to deal with that. But 3D makes some good stuff. All right. What's your, let's see, it's smooth now, might be when she's moving. So Dan, thank you for the feedback on that. What's your favorite pad for one-step correction? I'll be using 3D1, by the way. Favorite pad for one-step correction, it's probably going to be either these flat force pads from Lake Country, these orange ones. I've actually had these same pads for years and years. They have held up really well to pad washers. You can see over time they might start to get a little warped, but if you care for your pads properly, they're going to last a really long time. Or the gold standard waffle pads. These, I normally will do one vehicle with one pad, but using a pad washer. And you can see this one, it's starting to break down a little bit, get a little worn, because I do go heavy with the pad washer with these pads. But I normally will get at least 4 to 5 vehicles, one pad for this entire, 4 to 5 vehicles with one pad. So that's actually not bad considering I'm using this one pad on every panel, washing it after every panel. But they're not necessarily the cheapest, but they work really well, especially with the gold standard polish, which one spray of your polish, 1 to 2 sprays max. As you're rotating the polisher, get it on there. And for a majority of the vehicles that I see, I'm using gold standard polish or something like 3D1 or Burke Sol. When we've got maybe heavier defects, harder paint, your Griot's correcting cream, things like that. And I'm going to go over in just a second. Give me a second. I'm going to pan out a little bit for you guys. Going to go over in just a second. You can see over here, I've lined up on that table some of my favorite polishes and compounds. Some I've never worked with, some I am very familiar with. So I'm going to just kind of run down some of the more popular ones in my shop. Again, this isn't meant to be exhaustive, but I am a home-based detailer. So for me, I get to pick and choose what I want to work with. Many of these I've purchased. Some were sent to me to test and review, but for the most part, a majority of these were purchased by me. None of these videos are me promoting one brand or pushing one brand. I'm giving you guys 100% honest feedback. The Pad Princess, you mean the Pad Addict, OneDrive auto reviews, it is a little bit of an issue, but I've tried so many different polishes over the years and pads. So for the most part, and I don't know if you guys can see back here, I'm going to pan out a little bit, but we're going to zoom up just a smidge. All right, so you guys can see behind me. But when I'm using my pads, okay, I have black, I have orange, and white. These are kind of my finishing, and then your medium polish. And then in here, I've got some more orange, yellow. I do have a lot of yellow off to the side. They're kind of all together. And then my blue foam pads. And then down here, I have more of my heavy correction, microfiber wool pads, things like that. Okay. So anyways, hopefully this visual demonstrates for you guys kind of the different pads as far as what you would use in what order. And again, every brand is going to be slightly different. But like this is a Turtle Wax pad, and this is a Lake Country pad, Lake Country DIY detail. This is Lake Country. This is McGuire's. Here we have like a Rupes course. We have a McKee's waffle pad. This is Lake Country. I'm trying to think. They're all different brands, and sometimes you can see the different brands by the backing plate. This is Detail Co. Blueberry, and I believe Buff and Shine makes these pads. So anyways, hopefully that explains the different colors, why we would use one in what situation. Now, I'm going to try to do this if I can to demonstrate for you guys. I scuffed up this test panel pretty good. I actually used a green Brillo pad several times going over the surface to kind of mimic automatic car wash brushes, or maybe a customer, I've actually had this, where a customer had bug guts on their vehicle and they used a Brillo pad to try to remove them, and they ended up doing a good bit of damage. So I actually was wanting to demonstrate for you guys. We have Lake Country and we have Buff and Shine Eurofiber. Give me one second, I'll move you guys, that way you're not hitting my chin. But we have, these are some of the more popular pads. And I wanted to demonstrate for you guys if we were to kind of do a medium polish, maybe heavier correction, microfiber wool, what types of different correction we would get based on the pad. Now, when it comes to the product, trying to think, we might go with, I want something that's like a medium polish. We're probably just going to use like a 3D1 just for the sake. It can be a finishing polish or a heavier correction. So we're going to move these off to the side. Okay. And for the purpose of this video, and I think what we might do a little bit of this action just to kind of demonstrate for you guys how we step it up. And then we'll do this. This was a kit that I got off of Detailed Image. Pads are not cheap, guys. I shopped around a lot for this video. I actually bought these pads just for this video. I struggle with paying $12 to $15 for a pad. Like, I get it. It's hard to have to do that. I think I'm going to replace you. And you'll notice here that we've got some different colors with our microfiber pads. And even over here, you'll see when we get into kind of the microfiber territory, we have different pads. So again, we've got kind of our light polishing pad, heavier correction as we're going. And that's going to kind of give you that density where the microfiber isn't going to have as much give. So you can imagine that these are going to give you a little bit more, more polishing characteristics, more heavier correction characteristics. Then you got something like a Eurofiber 50/50, where this is a blend of two different types of materials. So essentially it's going to correct and polish in one. When you've got your kind of black material, that's more of your polishing, where your white, they're going to hold a lot more of your polish on the surface. So when we combine these two, this is actually a really great polishing pad when you combine it with Eurofiber 50/50 or the 3D1. So let's see, just trying to make sense of this because this was a little bit planned, but a little bit more impromptu. So we're going to do this action here. And maybe, all right, then we're going to do our Buff and Shine over here. So this is going to be kind of similar to your blueberry pad from Detail Co. And I don't know how this is going to go out, guys. All right, so we're going to combine this guy over here. So that way you can kind of see finishing capabilities. And then we've got kind of our little bit of a heavier correction. In fact, we might do this. 1 steps, your finishing, your 1 steps, your heavier correction, maybe not so much though. And then we've got kind of your all-in-one polishing pad, a little bit of a heavier correction with these. And then with our, I believe it goes like this, with our Buff and Shine pads, it would go medium polish, a heavier polish, and then like a heavier correction. And considering however manufacturers' colors are different, if you ever want to just kind of get an idea of what cut or polishing capabilities, just kind of feel the pad. If your finger kind of can't push down into it and it sits on the surface, you know it's going to be heavier correction. When you've got a lot more of a sponginess and just kind of a give to it, it's going to be more of your light polishing. And you can see just how much give we have with some of these pads. But when we have more stiffness, your polish is going to sit more on the surface versus getting absorbed. So you're gonna have a longer work time, more cut time. So when I polish, all of these things are gonna fall off. So hopefully we're gonna be able to keep this all straight. So for the purpose of this video, we're gonna be using a dual action polisher. This is a 15 millimeter, okay? So I'm gonna do literally just a few seconds, maybe, 3 seconds, 4 seconds in each spot. I'm not gonna go crazy with polish, but I wanna just kinda, gonna do this. Just kind of take them in the order that I want to work them so that as we're using them, and then I'm going to take you guys off at the end and we'll just kind of do a quick peek to see what kind of correction you're able to get with the pad using a hybrid polish like this. So we're going to just rip it at speed 5, sit in one spot, and just kind of gauge what kind of correction we're getting on with that pad and polish. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That didn't work it out. All right, we're gonna work it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So note to self, we need to work it into the panel a little bit better. We're doing this completely live. My hands are shaking because I hate, maybe we will kiss it out a little bit. That's not much. It's literally smears. All right, we're gonna come right here. We got our black one, we got our white one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, when I'm polishing, I am not being super aggressive. All right, I'm not pushing down a ton. All right, so we are just gonna do 4 little P's, working it in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I did that backwards. I should have had my orange one there. We're just gonna have to remember that. If I forget that because of my ADHD, I want you guys to remind me of that. Standard. Get hay for when we plant grass seed tomorrow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I know you're not going to get a ton of correction when we're just doing 5 seconds. If we're doing a paint enhancement and we're just like going over the panel really quickly, theoretically my arm movement is going to be more like this. So it's not going to be sitting in one spot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But you'd be surprised when you sit on one spot for just a few seconds, just how much correction you can get. Now, typically when we're doing microfiber, you want to kind of work it into some more of your pad. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We did generate a lot more heat though with microfiber. I can feel that surface even in just 5 seconds of being on there. We picked up a lot more heat than our foam. That's the advantage and disadvantage of foam. You might not get as much correction, but you're going to keep the surface a lot cooler. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I see you guys are commenting like crazy. Oh, let's see. Let's see if we can answer any. We'll go back. We'll go back. Let's stay focused. Squirrel. Squirrel, squirrel, squirrel. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Actually, not as much heat on that one versus the orange one. It's actually still a little warm. All right, so that was our yellow. Now we're doing the blue foam and the microfiber. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wow, that one's good and hot. Okay, so I feel like when it comes to our microfiber, we got all of those. We're gonna quick do our buff and shine ones. And I think what we're gonna actually do is we're gonna mix into that. I'm gonna add up here, we're gonna do the Rupes wool polishing pad. It's actually one of my favorites when we've got heavy correction on hard paint. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's actually not as hot as our microfiber. And you guys are either going to love this video or you're going to hate it. But if you like it, make sure you guys are giving me a thumbs up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, now let's really quick, let's do our buff and shine pads. I've actually never worked with these specific pads, so this is my first time. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I like the thickness of them, and I like the tapered edge on them. Okay, we've kind of landed doing just 4 little pea-sized drops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you notice when I'm lifting up, we've got kind of this circle in the middle of our pad. Now, obviously, when we are moving our pad, we're not going to have that kind of residue leaving behind, but you'll notice all of our solution kind of gets pushed into the middle. And that's where sometimes we don't have something right here. So that way, one, we don't have all that excess of polish sitting in the middle of the pad, but you're not going to get as much correction, obviously. Now, if I were to, come in here and move it, and then I move it off the panel, you're not going to see any of that kind of centrifugal residue left behind. All right, finally, we've got our red pad from Buff and Shine. This does look very similar to the McGuire's red one. I went really heavy on that one. So we're gonna share him so that way we don't sling everywhere. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Now I don't know if this is gonna pan out the way I have imagined it in my head. Okay, but we are going to come in, wipe off our residue. This is the only thing I hate about 3D1 is that it is extremely heavy on the residue. You can see actually where I kind of did our little bit of a paint correction on those spots. We got some carp eraser. Just gonna do a quick panel prep wipe. So we'll get all of our remaining residue behind. And I can see many of our areas, they're much glossier. Whatever protection was under them has been removed. You can actually see in certain areas, like spots, where just 5 seconds of paint correction, we were able to remove a good bit. Now, these were heavy scratches with a Brillo pad. So for the most part, the only ones that really started to take away the heavier correction was our heavy wool polishing pad from Rupes. Let me actually see if I can take you guys off. Bear with me. Okay. Let me get my paint correction light. All right. So over here, we had our black finishing pad. Okay, you can kind of see, I'm not going to say it did correction, but it maybe did ever so slight correction, but we actually have just more gloss. Over here, it's more dull than over here. Big improvement. So that was just our white foam polishing pad, black finishing pad with 3D1. So again, here's kind of our before. So then we went to our gold standard yellow foam pad. So here's our before to there. We look at it from a distance, can actually see the circle from the pad. Then we went to our orange one, which we should have done that backwards, but you can see our orange didn't do heavy correction, but it did remove some of the kind of marring, and it just brought back gloss and shine, and it finished down pretty decently. Then up here, I believe we had our blue foam pad. So look at the perimeter where it was just kind of dull. And then in the perimeter or in the interior, we did a little bit more correction, finished down nicely. So then hang with me, come over here. We had our Eurofiber 50/50. Did decent correction, finished down nicely. Then we had our orange microfiber pad right in this area. So again, here's the perimeter. So 5 seconds, guys. That's all we needed to do. And then up here, we had our orange microfiber pad, or our yellow microfiber pad, forgive me. It's a lot to keep straight, but again, here's our before to here. Then we went to our blue microfiber, decent, before, after. Then we had our, where are you at? This is, I believe, was our Rupes wool polishing. I think I could see actually right there. So this was it, right in the middle. A Rupes wool polishing pad. And then up here, a Rupes wool correcting pad. So you can actually see the spots where we had polished. And these might be a little, it's a little off, guys. I believe, so right here was our Rupes heavy wool correcting pad, Rupes wool polishing pad. And then up here we had our Buff and Shine Eurofiber, they're yellow. And then we had their blue. I wouldn't say that that did a ton. I'm not even seeing too much. I see that spot right here. I'm not seeing a ton, but this was probably the most gnarly damage out of the panel. And then our red. So personally, I mean, this is very hard to go by. 5 seconds in one spot with some major damage. I think our Lake Country performed ever so slightly better, but I'm not going to rule these out after 5 seconds of use. We're going to continue to play with them. So I'm going to catch my breath. That was a lot for me to go over. Let me see. I'm going to put you guys down. Bear with me. Okay. I'm going to bring you guys down. I'm going to lower you a little bit. So hang tight because I'm going to actually try to bring you in. I'm trying to move you slowly so you don't get sick. All right. So I want to try to bring you guys in over here to see some of the polishes and the pads. Yes, you are right. I have a lot for those of you that are kind of freaking out. And again, I hope the audio, I hope the video and everything is coming through okay. All right. We're going to go back through some of these questions that you guys have. All right. Let's see. We answered that questions about how do I store my pads. All right. I answered the question about favorite pad for one-step correction. That would be either the gold standard pad or the orange flat pads, which is this one, to those of you that are coming in a little bit late. Let's see. Breathe. You'll notice my face is super red. This is a lot of information I'm trying to get. 3D speed is the GOAT, and I only offer paint enhancements. Panel by panel mentioned that. And yes, I would say when it comes to paint correction, paint enhancements, there's a lot of different approaches that many detailers will take. And my approach doesn't have to be your approach. And my approach is going to be completely different from the body shop world, from the show car world. You have paint correction specialists that are literally taking, if not hundreds of thousands, $1 million vehicles, and they are perfecting the paint. They're getting every dust nib out. They are getting every defect out. That is not the world in which I live in. So I want to just preface that. A majority of detailers, like me, we are doing more gloss enhancements, paint enhancements. And I should have stated at the very beginning, when we're dealing with modern day daily driver vehicles, paint is getting thinner and thinner from manufacturers. Paints are more water-based. We have older vehicles that, if we're talking classic vehicles, 40s, 50s, single stage paint, where they needed consistent polishing with cleaner waxes, with, something that was maybe more of an all-in-one to abrade off the dead paint, to put oil back into the paint and restore it. That's why our dads, I'm 41, so I can say our dads, so some of you younger, you might not remember it, but our dads were constantly rubbing down cars every weekend because cars almost needed that. And when you have single stage paint, typically that was much thicker, so you could take that approach to kind of rubbing the car down, as our dads always used to say it. Nowadays, if we were to rub a car down on a modern daily driver, after a few years, you'd probably burn through your paint. That's the reality. Um, when we are doing paint correction on modern daily drivers, because paint is becoming thinner, we have to take more of a cautious approach. One, CYA policy. I'm not looking to pay for anybody's vehicle to be repainted. But most customers that I see on a day-to-day basis, they are going through the automatic car wash. Maybe not every day, not every week, but routinely. And for me to perfect paint, it's not going to stay that way. So there's no point in me chasing paint perfection. Can I achieve paint perfection? Clearly you can see I'm not lacking the tools. I'm not lacking the products. Um, and how many of you have followed me over the years where you're not seeing me really have to use all of these products, because rarely do I really need to do anything more than a two-step. And sometimes the only times I'm doing a two-step is because the paint is so sensitive, I have to use an additional step to remove the damage that I incurred. Or maybe the paint is just harder. I'm working typically on your Acuras, your Hondas, your Teslas, your Mercedes-Benz, BMW, Hyundais, typical. Okay, I'm not working on Aston Martins, Ferraris. I do work on Corvettes, but only occasionally. Their paint can be very hard, and fiberglass panels, that's like a whole nother beast. So on the average daily driver, a majority of these products are going to be all that you really need. Now I'm going to bring you guys in over here. So hang tight. I'm going to bring you, kind of show you some of my favorites. Okay. We have 3D1. I just demonstrated that over here. That is one of my go-tos when it comes to paint enhancements, paint correction. It's a hybrid polish. So if you use it with the right pad, you can get finishing capabilities and cutting capabilities. A lot of the daily drivers that I see, they just need a gloss enhancement and they don't need a ceramic coating. So you might need something like a 3D speed. This is fantastic for out in direct sunlight, quick passes. The wipe off, literally, it is in a league of its own. It's some of the easiest wipe off. When we have the most difficult wipe off and then the easiest 3D, just take this technology and put it here. Like, marry them together. Another one that I love, moderate defects, harder paint, Griot's correcting cream, super hard paint, major defects, fast correcting cream. This can almost make a DA act like a rotary, that quick of a defect removal. Some other favorites of mine, Detail Addicts. This is a small business. These guys have come out with some fantastic products. If you haven't tried them, they are fantastic. They're not ceramic infused, but we've got their platinum polish and their diamond polish. These are going to cut and finish down extremely well. This is great for medium to hard, and this is great for hard and just like I hate you kind of paint. Oberk products. I have not worked with their new Hacken compound, but if it's better than cut, you know it's going to be serious. So I bought some to try out, but we've got their cut and their polish. One, two. David Patterson from Oberk is a phenomenal paint correction specialist. He works in the needing to perfect paint world, the show car competition world, working on $100,000 plus vehicles. So when he makes a product, you know it's going to work really well. For the most part, these are going to be really all a lot of people need for heavy correction and finishing down if you're doing a lot of heavy correction. Paint enhancements, though, this could be all you need. This is one of my favorites, Oberk Soul. It's like you take 2 drops of cut, 2 drops of polish, put it in a bottle, and that's what you get. Most vehicles, that's going to work great. Then another one of my favorite, Last Cut Compounding Glaze. This is really great if you've got hard paint with heavy defects. And just to preface, the only one of these products that has fillers within it so far is this. This also has a protection within it, very, very mild. Majority of these products are not going to be fillers. We might have a few here and there, but majority of these are going to be perfect for prepping for ceramic coatings. You do not want a product that has fillers or that has a protection within it if you're getting ready for ceramic coating. Fillers will eventually fall off. And then when you kind of wash the vehicle, you're going to see the defects revealed. So when we're getting ready for ceramic coating, you want to try to get the level of correction the vehicle requires and finish down with clarity. However you need to do that with that combination is up to you. But I would not use this to prep for ceramic coating, but any of these other products kind of around this perimeter minus this is a finishing wax, should be fine for prepping for ceramic coating. But we also, moving on, have the Last Cut Plus and the final polish. This is going to be heavier correction. When this says compounding glaze, 0 fillers, I don't really fully understand because most of the time when we hear the word glaze, we hear fillers. But for some reason, this works so well, kind of like I would say it's on par with Oberk's Soul, but a touch more correction. But really great for harder paints with heavier defects. Some that I haven't played with much, but I just got. We've got Picar. This is an Italian brand. They're extra cut or heavy cut compound. They're one-step polishing compound and they're high gloss for finishing polish. I've worked with this a little bit and really nice correction, but even on hard paint, or I don't know if the VW classifies as hard paint, but this did do some damage in the VW that I worked with. So had to deal with marring that was pretty stubborn. So I would say these two would classify for heavy defects on medium to hard paint, but really excited to test them more. Avant-Garde, they sent me their cut compound finishing polish. And you guys heard me say just a moment ago, this was the easiest wipe off that I've ever worked with of any product. Avant-Garde's products are equivalent to 3D speed when it comes to wipe off. Really long work time, easy wipe off, no dusting. Really, really excited to play more with them. The cut compound did a great job. I wouldn't say it's heavy, heavy cut, but it's sufficient cut. Finishing polish actually was the only thing that removed marring from this product. And you can actually take 2 drops of this, 2 drops of this, and make a really great medium polish. So really excited to play more with these, but what I've seen so far, very, very impressed. Meguiar's staple with many detailing shops, their D300, D302. These are what I started off when I started paint correction. I broke my teeth in on the MT300 and this system right here on a 95 Chevy Corvette. And it was the first time I cried polishing a vehicle because I didn't have these and then I ordered these and it made polishing them so much easier. Microfiber correcting pad and then their yellow foam pad. And this gave me really great end product, but seriously, smells amazing. We've got cinnamon and banana, nice long work time. These are designed to work really well with microfiber pads. And this is really great to work with, foam pads. So just a really great solid system. Gold standard polish. This is probably the most used product here in my shop. I've gone through 3 bottles and you don't need a lot of it. It is just a great product. Really nice long work time. I wouldn't say wipe off is the easiest, but I use a rinse wash to wipe it off, but it doesn't have any dusting and it can do decent correction and finish down really nicely on most vehicles. Now, I haven't played with this, but I saw this at SEMA, and Ivan, I believe, said that this can take, I think, even under 1,000 scratch or wet sanding scratch marks. So I'm really excited to play more with this. When it comes to polishing, a lot of people think, oh, this doesn't have much cut. This, I think, is going to knock my socks off from what I've seen, what you've been able to test out. Another brand that's really great, Phoenix EOD Papa Cut finishing compound and fabulous finishing polish. These are, majority of these are going to be water-based, but this is just really easy to use. Nice long work time, no dust, easy wipe off. Phoenix is making some great products. These are new from FineLab. They're A50 one-step heavy cut compound. They're A500 medium cut polish. A1000 fine finishing polish. So you can see we kind of, majority of these guys are going to have a 2-step, 3-step, some even more. But based on the level of correction, the hardness of the paint, that's where you would start. Most of the time, we start off with the least aggressive, work our way forward. But if we've got heavy defects, harder paint, you can kind of cut one of these guys out and just sometimes start right here. Then we also have our Rupes. This is their blue coarse compound to be paired with their blue foam pad or their blue microfiber pad. Then their yellow finishing polish or finite polish compound. This is probably what I would say would be the go-to in this line for paint enhancements. Then you've got their Uno Pure ultra finishing polish, and then these actually are distinct because we're going to have like an all-in-one polish and sealant, and then this actually is a standalone protection and maintenance polish that you could use. I believe that's like ceramic infused. And then we're going to come around here. A lot of you had mentioned 3D. These are some of the heaviest cut compounds that I've ever worked with. So if you're working in the body shop world and you're working with 3D, typically you're going to use products like this. But I use these two primarily for headlights, but they work really well with a wool polishing pad where I don't necessarily need to wet sand sometimes. I can just cut with this and then finish with a finishing polish. And that's a very quick way to enhance headlights. Over here, whoops, sorry. All right, over here, these are, I would say, the creme de la creme of polishes that I've ever worked with. Angel Wax is a UK-based company. We've got their Resurrection heavy cut compound, their Enigma all-in-one. This is a ceramic infused hybrid compound. Their Regenerate, which is the equivalent cut as their Enigma, but this has ceramic within it. It's going to last you like 4 to 6 months. And then Redemption, their finishing polish. They are expensive. You have to pay international shipping fees. You can get them in the States now. They're not the cheapest, but these work so well. This has really easy wipe off, long work time, no dusting. You're just going to absolutely love working with these products. If you want some of the best of the best, try Angel Wax. There's many cult favorites when it comes to some of these brands. We got Sonax, German brand. You know, we got also Jeskar. We could throw into their Menzerna. These are kind of your German-ish brands, but we've got their Perfect Finish. A lot of people put these two in a very, very close competition for black paint, piano trim pillars, sensitive paints. You can't go wrong with either, but I think this works a touch better than Sonax Perfect Finish and then their cut and finish. What I like about some of these brands, and like even Koshemi, where they give you kind of these meters here to determine cut and gloss, that's just going to help you know how you're going to finish down. But we've got the correcting compound, micro finishing polish and fine polish from Jeskar, and then H902, F601, M302, P301, P601. You can see we're kind of stepping down in cut, increasing in gloss, and then we even get end finish where that's going to be like a sealant where we have some protection within it, or Canuba wax. In the middle here, we have a few kind of specialty products. We have like Shine Supply. This can work really well in sensitive paints, or their flat top. This is a heavy, like quickest cutting compound I've worked with. Like 1 pass, 2 passes, that's all you need. Sometimes when we got thin paint, You don't want to use certain products like that because you're going to cut through it super quick. But if you're just looking to expedite paint correction, get quick correction, you can use a product like that. Then we even have some primer polishes like C6 App or Fiero from Labo Cosmetica, or even CarPro Essence Plus. You can use this. Some say you can use this to polish a ceramic coated vehicle. I would use with caution. But this would be the first approach. If we've got an issue on a ceramic coating that you want to try to polish out, try this first before we kind of step into any of these. But wrong pad, you can still correct with this. So this is very, very much pad dependent. But just proceed with caution. Just know you might be removing some of the polish, but there is some ceramic within it to infuse it. And then, we've got all-in-ones like Optimum Hyper All-in-One, Meguiar's Cleaner Wax. So again, not meant to be exhaustive, but is meant to kind of demonstrate for you guys some of the products out there. And when we are doing paint correction, we're starting with the least aggressive and working our way up based on the scenario. So I'm going to jump back behind here, try to finish up answering you guys' questions. I think I'm pretty much done as far as demoing things. All right, let's see. Very good tutorials on polishing compounds, polishing pads, Chelsea, Chi-Town. Thank you so much. 3D speed is a goat. We already answered that. Would you use a slight and dampen pad before applying polish? Dry pad for wax application. There is a benefit to having your pad slightly dampened. It just keeps it cooler. It helps the pad from getting overheated and getting warped. That's why the pad washer can be so beneficial. You sometimes can get more cut with a dry pad, because obviously water is going to dilute the polish down ever so slightly. But when we're doing wax application, I would say keep it dry, because sometimes you're going to cause the wax to streak or activate very quickly. So good question, Albin. My favorite thing I like about 3D Speed is that I can polish the whole car in sun, then wipe off after. That is very true. That's one of the things I love about it. Have you tried DIY Compound, Vice Detail? Hopefully I answered that. I haven't worked with it yet. I did get to see it at SEMA at work. Very, very impressive. Waffle or foam, one better than another? So it really depends on sometimes preference, also paint. Waffle typically is going to be more of a cooler pad. It's going to help with ventilation, and sometimes it can also help with um, keeping some of the polish, more workable, because we've got kind of an uneven surface. So as it's kind of working down, it's going to just be able to work it a little bit more. But you're not also going to have as much correction on the surface, because obviously we've got an uneven surface. So flat can give you more correction, but the waffle can keep it cooler and help prevent swelling and things like that. So again, I am not the dictionary or like the world's most knowledgeable person when it comes to paint correction. I just want to share with you guys what I have learned over the years, what has worked for me. I've never had an issue working with one over the other. You can still get similar, if not the same level of correction. I think sometimes waffle is just going to be better for the paint, and also they just tend to last longer because they don't get as hot. I use orange and white on soft paint. Those sponges are non-scratch. If you're meaning the Brillo ones, yeah, they're very much scratch. You can see I just did like 3 passes with them. Have you tried the KCX pad line? I have not. Like I said, this isn't meant to be exhaustive. I've not tried every single pad and product out there in the world. But primarily what I use here in my shop, the Lake Country, the Buff and Shine, Rupes have worked really, really well for me, held up over the years. I even have some McKee's 37. Their pads are decent, but I believe Lake Country made their pads. Greetings from Romania. What do you think about washing cars after polishing as preparation for ceramic coating? I've never needed to use that or do that BBS, because I'm using products that for the most part don't have a lot of just residue left behind. We don't have a lot of dusting. And I'm also using a rinseless wash afterwards to remove the polish residue. I'm ever so slight. You might have some of these products that you're going to be a little dusty. And if you have like a microfiber or, a wool pad, something like that, yeah, you can have actually just like working in a dusty environment, Sometimes blowing it off can work, but then a rinseless wash for the most part, and then panel prep wipe is all I've needed to do. Even if I get polish residue in door seams, things like that, the rinseless wash can get that up. Um, yes, you are putting moisture back on the vehicle. Before ceramic coating, you don't want a lot of water dripping out. So I'm trying to minimize how much water I have to deal with dripping from door jambs, things like that. Rinseless wash, I can control the level of moisture and it can dry pretty much within, 5-10 minutes. And I'm not having things dripping on a panel that I'm getting ready to ceramic coat. So I know if you're working with super dusty products or maybe in a shop environment or things like that, it might be faster to just wash it if you've got multiple employees. But for me, rinseless is all I've ever needed to do. And then a panel prep wipe, I can get that done in 5 minutes versus having to pull everything out, rewash the vehicle, and then have tons of water dripping. Um, let's see. Can you talk about soft versus hard paint and how you choose the microfiber versus blue versus orange to compound? So, OneDrive auto reviews. Hopefully, I feel like I've answered this throughout the video, but just to kind of recap, when we're dealing with soft, medium, hard paints, we determine that through our test spot. And how we determine that, one, experience is going to be your greatest thing. Get a test panel, figure it out. You can see this demonstration. I kind of showed you guys how each pad accelerated ever so slightly in its capabilities of correcting. But on certain vehicle types, that test spot is going to determine it. That VW video that I did, I think visually demonstrates for you guys the difficulties we can have. And I kind of bit myself in the butt because I started too aggressive. I went in assuming it was going to be hard, and I went in with an approach that would work in a hard paint and ended up having to do multiple steps to dial down the damage that I had done from the pad and the polish. So let's say theoretically we're working on Tesla paint, we would start off with a white foam pad and then maybe something like a Sonex Perfect Finish or an Optimum Hyper Polish. If we didn't get much correction with that, then I would know, okay, I need to step it up either with my pad or my product. And you can sometimes take an hour just to determine your test spot. But process of elimination is how we determine that. So you could then take the same product and an orange foam pad, do your test spot. If you get a better level of correction and you finish down nicely, that might be all you need. But if you're still not, getting the correction that you need, then that's where we say, okay, we bump up either the pad or the product. Now, anytime you're switching one of those variables, you run the risk of, okay, I created damage. Now I got to either step it down with the product. So again, it's a lot of eliminating either the product or the pad. It's guesswork sometimes. When you land on that right combination, it can be the most validating and just like rejoiceful moment. And sometimes you're lucky enough, first pad, first product, you get it. And you could say, okay, well, could I get a similar result with a different product? Sure. But for me, if I find that product and pad that works that first time, I'm sticking with it. I'm not going to pull out 5 different products that are similar to see, oh, well, this give me similar, similar, similar. We don't need to break our teeth in over those things. But when we're dealing with medium paint, let's say you're Japanese, Toyota, Dodge, typically those are my favorite to work with. You can use something like a yellow foam pad, blue foam pad, maybe something a little bit more firm, aggressive, even a medium polish. That's where I think the medium polishes like our Rupes, our Soul, our 3D1, Angel Wax, Regenerate, even doing two drops of a compound and a polish, they're going to work really well in that world because they can tolerate a little bit more of an aggressive compound and polish and approach, but they're going to finish down nicely. But when we get into hard paints, if I'm using something like this or this, it's not going to make a dent. I could even come in with a heavy cut compound and let's say a yellow foam pad and maybe not make a dent. So sometimes the paint is going to be corrected by the right combination of compound and pad, but sometimes it can just be one of those singular scenarios. I could have this color pad and use any of these products and get a great result. Sometimes it's just the pad that's going to give us that little bit of a correction. So the best way to learn all of this, get a test hood and just start trying. Yes, you can watch videos like this to give you a resource, to give you a baseline. The best way that I have learned is working on my vehicles, my husband's vehicles, my family members' vehicles. If you want to do this professionally, I wouldn't recommend all the time learning on customers' vehicles. I would say start off with paint enhancements. Start off with something simple like a 3D speed, orange foam pad or yellow foam pad. You're not going to do much damage with that. Yes, you do have to be careful with backing plates, with speed, with angles, with sitting on one spot for too long. But if you're using a dual action polisher, you can start off with a small throw or a 15 millimeter throw polisher, and kind of these pads right here, 3D speed or something of that sort. It's a great way just to get comfortable with using a polisher, with bringing some gloss into the paint, putting some oil back into the paint, understanding hand movements, body lines, how to keep your backing plate spinning freely. It's just a great way to learn. And then as you become more comfortable in that scenario, that's where you can maybe introduce more heavy correction. I wouldn't start off like I did on a Corvette, trying to do paint perfection for your first vehicle, because you're going to end up crying. You're going to realize you're in over your head. And then you're going to end up buying a ton of products like I have just to play around and learn. You can go that route if you want, but if you're wanting to just do it safely and just kind of break your teeth in, I would start off with paint enhancements first. And you don't need to chase necessarily a level of perfection. 2 to 3 passes should be all you need to do. Moderate arm speed. If we're getting into heavy correction or out in direct sunlight, there's all these other variables. This is just kind of meant to give a beginner an overarching look into paint correction. But when it comes to pads, when it comes to products, a lot of these products are going to be very similar. It's really going to come down to, is there a brand you want to support? Is there a user experience that you want to have? Majority of these are going to be nice long work time, low dust, really nice correcting capabilities, finishing capabilities. So you don't need to buy all these. You could just buy one brand that you want to support and try it out. But just know that sometimes I could have one product work great for 5 cars, and then that 6th car, it's not going to work well. So at some point, you do want to have a few products on hand that are going to be able to do a variety of different things. I feel like I'm all over the place, and I apologize for that. This is a big topic to cover, and we might have to do multiple videos to kind of answer you guys' questions. Does your mom know you're talking to strangers on the internet? Not at this moment, and she might actually be in the chats. Hi, Mom, if you are. She's on vacation in Florida, so I hope she's having a great time. Let's see. Chelsea, let's see. Gosh, you guys have so many questions, and I keep scrolling through. App is deep cleaning of pores and swells it as well. Dan's Diamond Detailing. Yes, when it comes to primer polishes, things like that, certain ones are going to do different things. App polish, they claim that it swells the paint and allows it to receive the ceramic coating. That happens on a microscopic layer. I'm picturing something like Stranger Things, where it's just like ready to receive it. But it can actually do decent gloss, kind of makes the surface a little sticky, but different primer polishes are going to act a little differently. So they're not all going to be equivalent. So again, it comes down to wanting to support certain brands and just informing yourself. Watch videos online of people using those products. Reach out to the manufacturers, ask them questions. Majority of them have fantastic customer service that they're going to be able to give you guys answers to many of the questions so that you feel more confident before you put anything on a panel. Washing it may not get rid of the oils in the polish from the panel. Chi-Town, I think you guys are all over the place as far as panel prep, as far as paint pressure. So we're going to keep going past that. How do you polish BBs? What's your technique? How do you polish? I don't know what you're saying there, Dan. So if you could rephrase it, BBS, what is your technique? How much do you put on your pads? Typically, I mean, you can see I was just doing this one right here. 4P size drops is all you should really need unless you're working on microfiber. Microfiber, you want to kind of work it into a majority of the surface. So that way all the microfiber is going to have product to be able to work for you. But foam pads typically can get by with just doing 4P size drops on the pad. There is such a thing as too much product. There is such a thing as overworking your product. Again, those are videos that we can make for the future. And I've touched on that in a lot of different videos in the past. If you're seeing a ton of sling off, you put on too much product. But that's why I always, kind of kiss it out onto the panel. We just smear it. You can either turn on the polisher to prime your pad, or you can kind of kiss it all over the panel. I prefer to kiss it. Each person is going to have their own different technique. But then once you kind of spread it out on the panels, that way you have a fresh polish as you're moving across the panel. Spread it evenly at a low speed. Then you kind of start at the top, and that's where you kick it up to speed 5, 5.5, 6 at the max if you need to. But I normally am like around 5, 5.5, and just kind of working it in our up and down, side to side, overlapping 50% pattern. One pass to me classifies as doing the entire section. Then when we do up and down, that would be a second pass. Then if we're going kind of in the opposite direction, a whole nother way, that's a third pass. Some count this as one. I don't. I think that's sometimes overworking the product. If you start to see chunks of polish flinging off, you've worked your product too long. If you start to see pigtails, you've worked your product too long. And pigtails are kind of where you're going to see kind of little swirlies in the paint. You want to work majority of your products down until you can, for the most part, see through them. Some are a little bit more oily though and hard to see through. But you'll notice if you're kind of working it till it's gone. For some, you've worked it just enough, you're done. For some, you're going to be able to have 4 or 5 passes before it even starts to dry up. So that might be too much correction if you're waiting for it to be completely gone for the snare. So it's going to be varied based on the situation, how long you work that product. What paint correction cream do you recommend for a black GMC truck? Also, can you do more videos featuring your husband's truck? I'm actually planning on recoating his truck this summer. I haven't figured out what coating I want to put on it yet. So I will be doing more videos for you guys. I hate correcting his truck. It's always difficult. I've given up trying to perfect it more than anything at this point. I want to remove whatever coating is on there. The McKee's 37 Graphene Pro Coat has been on there for almost 3 years. I am starting to have a little bit of failure on the trunk, but the sides, everything looks great. But the paint has picked up some love marks from my kids and stuff, and it needs to be glossed up. Coatings over time, over years, the paint will actually start to get a little dull. And when you remove the coating, the paint actually looks better than the areas that had the coating on it. And that's just because I wouldn't say coatings are 100% UV protection. They do give you some, but that UV protection is not through the long haul of the coating's life. That's where I think ceramic refreshers or things like that can actually help replenish the UV protection. But over time, your paint can become dull, not as quickly as if it was uncoated. But I do plan on polishing his truck. Normally, when I'm doing his truck, I'm using this with a white foam pad. This is sufficient to remove protection, and this is sufficient to restore gloss, and it finishes down decently. So, yeah, I will definitely do more videos, but that's normally my finish step for black GM paint. I could use something like a medium polish, 3D1, Oberk Soul. I'm not going to be super aggressive on that paint though, because any level of heavy correction, you're going to do damage with your product and pad. So you're going to have to continuously step things down until you get to a point where you have your white foam or optimum hyper polish. So sometimes if you come in with microfiber, you could need a blue foam, then a yellow foam, then an orange foam, like stepping down the damage. And each step you're doing, you're removing paint. So that's why sometimes I don't go super aggressive on vehicles like that, because I don't have that much room to remove that much paint to step it down, if that makes sense. After this video, you're going to have to wash a lot of pads. What's your preferred way of doing it? I love using the pad washer, 400D from Lake Country. I use a half a scoop of McKee's 37, their pad rejuvenator in that, and I will wash them. But normally when I need to just do like a hand wash, give me 1 second, I'm gonna grab it. It's right out here. This actually is a really great product. It's not the best on your lungs. But Vonix Salt, this is a really great pad cleaner. I normally, are you guys still there? All right. I normally only need like, maybe 3 or 4 sprays onto a pad, and then I will use a stiff detailing pad brush and just kind of agitate it in the surface. Hot water, as hot as my hand can tolerate it. And I will just use my thumb and under the water, work that cleaner and any polish residue out of the pad. Rinse it until I have no residue coming out of it. Wring it out. You can spin it dry on your polisher, but I normally just put it in the blue stacks that I have off to the side, let them air dry overnight, and they're good to go. So either pad washer, if I have a ton that I need to clean on the fly, or if I have time, I'll just wash them over at the sink. Kills my back, but I do find that washing them by hand has helped preserve my pads. The pad washer, you can see, can be aggressive over time and just kind of break down the pads. And when they're $12, $13 a pop, that hurts my wallet, especially with economy the way it is. So sometimes it might be better for me to buy more pads and change my pad after every panel, wash it by hand. I will get more use out of it. So it's really up to you guys. Let's see. We love you, Angry Monkey Detailing. Thank you. Hopefully you guys don't mind my super red face because I was get super nervous. Edgeguard Blueberry is my go-to. I'm excited to try the Agent Orange. Those are from Detail Co. I believe that they are from Buff and Shine as well. But yeah, the Blueberry pad is a heavy correcting pad. If you're using it on soft paint, that pad by itself can leave some marring. So I would reserve it for medium to hard paints, but it is a heavy hitter. Combine it with Endgame, you got really, really nice correction. But I wouldn't say it's for every type of paint. Soft, medium, sometimes that can be too aggressive. Blueberry with an all-in-one is pretty much good on everything. If you use a one-step yellow, will do better on softer paint. Yellow, Buff and Shine. I believe that is this one right here. And if we're comparing this in feel, I would say that, let me see if I have a Rupes yellow. The Rupes yellow is probably my go-to when it comes to a yellow pad. I thought I had one of those out here. Did I move it? I might have done that. But I would say that this feels very similar to the yellow Rupes, maybe a little bit softer, but I do like the edge guard. I like the backing plate. It looks like it can tolerate multiple tears on and off. But these actually, I don't even know if these are their edge guard ones. I picked these up off of Detailed Image. I think Detail Co. might have, or the House of Rags. I think there's the edge guard ones might be proprietary or like solo for their website. I'm sure you guys will correct me if I'm wrong. I didn't touch much on heavy correction, microfiber, or wool pads. And I know we're trying to keep this kind of beginner friendly, but it would benefit you guys, I think. So one of you guys had asked earlier, what do you use for polishing glass? There are specific polishing pads for glass. Let's see, I believe one of these might, yeah, this is Glass Polish Pro Felt Polishing Pad. Normally when you're doing major water spots or like etching, cerium oxide. We're talking not beginner friendly. This is major and you can do damage with this, but normally these pads, you can see there's nothing to them. You're basically putting them right on your backing plate and you're gonna have maximum cut with these. I would not use this on paint at all. But you can actually get decent correction on glass, even just using a microfiber pad. Oftentimes I'll use something like PNS, their correcting cream, which is great for glass, and do something like this. And for mild to moderate water spots, that is a great product. The microfiber helps keep kind of it on the surface, but you've got a little bit more cushion and give, so you're not being as aggressive on the glass. Glass is pretty hard, but you can do damage to it. So just proceed with caution. It's not a, I would say, entry-level skill. But when it comes to wool pads, we've got a lot of different types on the market. And you can have ones like this is Lake Country, they're low lint. pre-washed lamb's wool, but then we also have the PNS, their soft wool correction pad, both very similar. When they say low lint, that doesn't mean they're not going to lint. I mean, you can see just me kind of going over it like this, it's still going to shed some lint, but a lot less than some of your more standard wool pads. I mean, this is one of the purple wool pads. These are meant for, I would say, um, heavier correction on harder paints. And we've got a lot of different variances. We've got the DIY Detail, their purple uh, wool polishing pad. They've got their black one as well. I've not played too much with the black. They just sent this to me. But if we got harder paints, heavier defects, that's what we would want to use. Soft, medium paints, you're going to do quite a bit of damage. And then we've got also kind of the purple wool went with a foam pad interface or just a purple wool with no interface. Some of these might be tool dependent, rotary or longer throw. This would probably be more designed for a rotary. But with a DA, you can see we've got some with ventilation to try to keep the pad cooler, to keep the surface cooler. But we might have a little bit more cutting capabilities, but also polishing capabilities based on the combination. So again, I am not the authority on pads. This is not meant to be exhaustive. But when we're getting into hard paint, heavy correction, wool has its place. But just know that with most modern day vehicles, we've got to make sure we're finishing down. So if you have marring from whatever pad or product you're using, just know how to step it down to remove that marring and finish down properly. Uh, all right, let's see. Chelsea, this test is great. Where the expertise you can have shine is assessing paint with soft and hard. When do you go to which pad? When assessing paint with soft and hard, when do you go to each pad? Hopefully I have explained that to you guys. I feel like I've said it at least 2 or 3 times. So if I haven't, one, drive, just to kind of refresh that question because I'm trying to get through these questions. Simon Mom, I think I'm really far behind. Okay. Oh, Dan Steinman, thank you so much for that. Put your buy Chelsea a cup of coffee link below. It's actually in the video description. I rarely ever do that. If you guys want to do that, you can. You don't have to. I'm not doing this to get anything from you guys. I didn't even put links to products or pads. I do have some coupon codes if you guys from like Car Supplies Warehouse or the House of Rags. In any of my older videos, I try to provide coupon codes for all you guys from any manufacturers. So if there's any products that you see here that I don't have a link for and you want an affiliate link, let me know in the comment section down below and I'll provide it for you guys. That just helps support the channel. But really, if you're wanting to become a beginner and just become more comfortable with paint correction, I would start off orange foam pad, 3D speed, or DIY Detail, their gold standard polish and their gold waffle pad. 2 really great places to start. Majority of the vehicles that you see, your customers aren't going to see the defects. They're going to see how glossy and how shiny their vehicle is. So either you're just doing gloss enhancement, ceramic sealant, 3D speed, that's all you really need. Or if you're wanting to maybe prep for ceramic coating on a newer vehicle that doesn't have heavy paint correction that's needed, DIY Detail, that's really 2 good places to start. All these products though, have questions. If I don't answer it, put them in the comment. I'll try to get to them when I can. All right, Mariah, do you prefer to polish the glass with those pads using a rotary or an orbital polisher? I have a rotary. I never use it. It's not that I'm scared of it. I'm just so comfortable with the dual action polisher. I know what it can do that for me, I don't want to waste time kind of relearning a new polisher. So I just use what I know because it's faster. Does that not mean the rotary couldn't be faster? I'm sure. But the time it would take for my ADHD brain to wrap around learning a new tool sometimes can be very intimidating. So for me, I much prefer the DA. I'm rarely in an environment where I need the rotary for heavy cut. I know people like Ivan think you can work faster, get better correction, and finish down with a rotary. That's fantastic because he's become confident and efficient in that. So for me, I've worked with rotary. I see the benefits, but for me, there's still some unknowns with it. And so I'd rather just eliminate the fear of the unknown and also just the risk that could come because I'm not 100% confident. I've been using a tool like this for 9 years. I'm so much more comfortable using it. So not to say that the rotary can't be great, but and there are some out there that would say rotary will cut faster, finish with a DA, boom, you're done. Sure. But for me, I can actually do a paint enhancement or polish on an entire vehicle in an hour with a DA. So for me, that's not bad. Why change things if it's not broken? I'm an Jim Walker. I'm an enthusiast only, never polished a car. I bought a G9 and Rupes polishing system. Should I start with white pad and yellow fine polish or yellow pad with pure polish? What type of vehicle do you have? Color, what's the level of defects on it? That's going to gauge kind of where I would start. If you have a German vehicle, I would say start off with a yellow pad and maybe this product. If it's new and there's not a lot of damage, I mean, you can get by with something like this. But this is more, I would say, new vehicle that doesn't have much damage, that you're wanting to get ready for protection, or you've done heavy correction, you want to finish down a little bit more, maybe bring out a little bit more gloss, use a product like this. But for most vehicles, this has a good bit of correction. So if you have softer paint, you want to be careful with this. But most medium to hard paints, this is going to be great. I would say you would only reserve this for heavy correction, harder paints, headlights, things like that. Are we having girly drinks at Phoenix EOD headquarters at the end of the month? I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it because soccer starts for my kids, but I don't know what they're going to be drinking. All right, 2016 Lexus Molten Pearl Show Car Weekend Driver. I would say pearl, white. I have a different approach, just being honest, with a black vehicle versus a white vehicle. White, you're not going to notice as many defects. So you could technically, if you're not noticing the defects, you could just get by with something like this and a white foam pad and just gloss it up. Pearl especially sometimes can be really hard to see defects, especially in direct sunlight. It depends on what you see and what your goal is. But you also, the other thing that I didn't mention in any of this, hang with me guys, is you got to know how much paint you have to work with. Okay, so I'm right here, hang with me. When it comes to correction, the first thing we need to do as detailers, if we're going to be doing any sort of level of correction, is measuring our paint thickness. And we use this tool. This is a paint thickness gauge. You can pick this up off of Car Supplies Warehouse. This is one of the best insurance policies that I have ever purchased for myself. It's not necessarily the cheapest. It's digital. I use it on my phone. But this, you would turn it on, use your screen. There's an app that you use with this, and it would tell you how thick the combined total of the paint is. It doesn't give you layer by layer, but if you see 3.4, we're going to know that on most modern daily drivers, we've got a combination of our base, or like our primer, our color, and then our clear. So I always divide that into thirds. So if I have below 3 mils of paint, and I normally measure it in mils, some do in microns. I do mils, it's just easier for my brain to wrap around. But if I have less than 3 mils of paint, if I'm dividing in third, I know I'm getting low on clear coat. Theoretically, it's not always the case. I've polished some vehicles that we were under 2 mils and I was okay, but I did not feel comfortable going heavy correction. And I told the customer, only time I'm going to be able to polish your vehicle. When we've got 4 or 5 mils of paint, you can do a heavier correction. You're not taking off much paint doing a paint enhancement or a light polish, maybe like zero 0.1 mils of paint. When we're doing heavy correction, you might be doing 0.3, 0.4, 0.5. But if we are doing that year after year, cumulatively, also going through the automatic car wash, which those brushes are braiding off paint, that all gets taken into consideration. So when I ask a customer, when they say to me, can you polish the vehicle? First, I'm going to measure the paint to see, can I even do any level of correction? If it's under 3 mils, we might be doing a glaze. We might be doing a 3D speed at best. Quick, putting gloss, putting oil back into the paint. That's it. I'm not chasing a level of perfection. If we're 3.4, 3.5 above, okay, I can then say, what's your budget? Also, what color of the vehicle is it? What type of vehicle is it? If it's black GM, it's a two-step right away. So I need to make sure they have that in their budget, because either that or I'm only going to be able to use this with a white foam pad and just gloss it. Rarely am I seeing a black truck that doesn't have a lot of damage. So you just have to be prepared with the budget, because if the customer says, I want a ceramic coating on a 2002 black GM truck that's been taken through the automatic car wash, and I hunt and I have dogs, your paint's going to be rough, like really rough. And then also there's the expectation of the customer, because I could say it's going to require two steps to correct, and they could say, I don't really care about defects. I just want the coating. Okay. So there's all these things that you have to take into consideration, from how thick is the paint? What is the customer's budget? What is the customer's expectation? Do they even notice those things? You've got to keep in mind, customers don't see scratches the way detailers do. There are certain times that I will kick myself and say, I could have gone a little bit more. And the customer thinks I've given them a brand new vehicle. And I walk away going, why did I stress so much over that? It was all me. It was all me chasing my goals and my expectations. I've had to learn over the years not to detail for me. I detail for my customers. Very rarely is a customer getting down and looking in the reflection. I've never once had a customer break out a light and say, you missed a spot. Never. So there's all these things that you got to take into consideration when it comes to paint correction. This is becoming a lot longer of a video than I wanted, but hopefully this gives you guys at least a general idea of what all goes into paint correction, the pads that we need, some of the polishes that I would recommend, some of the safeguards that we need as far as determining the paint thickness. We didn't even get into lighting and things like that. We can cover all of that in a future video. What more do you guys want to see when it comes to paint correction? But hopefully pads, paint hardness, softness, this gives you an idea of how to approach those situations, and also visually seeing what pad can do, what they're capable of doing, and why you would need one color pad over another in a certain situation. The occasional detailer, got a rapid fire one for you that I'm sure has been asked 100 times. If you could pick one pad in each category, what are you picking as your one step, cutting pad, and finishing pad? Okay, so one step pad, gonna be a tie between these two. We got our flat force pad. They're gonna be one of the more affordable options out there, from Lake Country or the DIY detail, their gold waffle pad. For cutting pad, I am using, I don't have it here, it's over here, give me a second. I am using either a Rupes yellow foam pad or the blue CCS pads from Lake Country. Those are my go-to when I've got medium to hard paints or heavier defects that I need to remove. Rarely am I using microfiber. Rarely am I using wool. Most vehicles, I don't need that. Finishing polish, I am using any flat white foam pad. It doesn't matter. You can get the flat force pads, you can get the CCS pads. Some of these will keep the product more on the surface, keep the pad cooler. You can even use the black finishing polishes, but typically this with Optimum Hyper Polish or Sonex Perfect Finish, but Optimum Hyper Polish, that's just, it's the one that it's become my go-to. Mariah, thank you so much for sharing your great experience and knowledge with us. I appreciate all of you guys for tuning in. I've tried to keep it front facing, so I have no idea. I can see myself here, but other than that, I'm not 100% sure how much, this is not going to be the most aesthetically pleasing video, but I'm trying to get you guys the information so that way you guys can feel more confident and comfortable. Like I said, I'm not going to say I'm the most proficient when it comes to paint correction, but for modern daily drivers, for everyday detailing, this is my approach. This is what's worked for me. Never had an issue where customers said to me, I'm not satisfied. Normally they tell me my vehicle looks better than new. When it comes to paint correction, the last thing I want to say to you guys, if you're going to be polishing customers' vehicles, make sure you have insurance. You do not want to be polishing a vehicle, burn the paint, damage trim, and then you're liable, and then you don't have anything to fall back on. So if you're going to, I would say, be doing more than 4 vehicles, I would say a month, or if you're doing any sort of paint correction, you are now a professional detailer and you need to get insurance. Garage keepers and liability insurance, just cover your butt. I've never once had to use it. I have burnt paint before, but I was able to resolve it by either paying for the vehicle, the spot to be repainted. Actually, I burned it only once, and it was brand new VW Bug. My backing plate hit a funky line on the body, and it just burned through it. And the customer was totally fine with me ordering touch-up paint. I did the touch-up paint for them, blended it. He was happy with it. Not every situation is going to work out that way. I was sweating. I was crying. It was not a good feeling, but knowing that I had insurance if I needed to was fine. But when we start getting into exotics, high-end cars, a lot of you, that's where you want to be. Just know the greater risk. So make sure you guys have insurance if you're going to be doing this. Be mindful at all times of where your backing plate is. All of these new vehicles with all these funky body lines, there's just a higher risk of something going wrong. So just be aware of your surroundings. And yeah, hopefully this gives you guys at least some direction. I know I was all over the place with this video. I had a lot that I wanted to cover. And give us a thumbs up if you guys feel like you've been able to pull something away from this video. Make sure you share it. If you guys have any friends that have questions about paint correction, and if there's anything that I didn't answer or I didn't cover in this ridiculously long video, put your questions in the comment section down below. I'll either do a follow-up video or answer your questions in the chat. But I'm so thankful to each and every one of you guys for following along, for following the channel. If you haven't, make sure you guys subscribe, stay tuned. This has been the hardest, slowest winter to date when it comes to detailing. I'm really hopeful and optimistic that spring, once things warm up, we're going to have a ton of business for you guys and a ton of videos and content. So stay tuned. But we'll see you guys in the next video. Have a great day.